The investigation involved action and behavior that could represent significant breach of the SPVM disciplinary and ethical code, as well as potential violation of the criminal code. These include alleged misconduct during a police intervention and alleged discrimination and racism behavior towards citizens. 2 police officers has been suspended, 3 reassigned to administrative duties, and the rest of the immediate team has been relocated. We're going to work extremely hard to detect who are the one involved in those kind of events, and we're going to take them to court. There's no pity. I have no tolerance.
Montreal Police Chief Fady Daguerre. It's a story that developed late on Friday. That press conference, by the way, where Fady Daguerre was speaking, Montreal's police chief, was at 10:30 on Friday night, all about a situation in Montreal North at Police Station 39. 16 officers now being investigated. 2 have already been suspended. Look, sadly, this is not new for that part of the city. This was an issue 20 years ago or 15 years ago in the death of Freddie Villanueva. There have been problems there before, and I said this off the top when we first brought it up today, Fady Daguerre has made it a point since he was in Longueuil as police chief when he came to Montreal, to get involved in community policing, and it seems that at least in this particular borough, which has a history of this sort of behavior, to not be working. And I want to point one other thing out. This is not tarnishing the entire force there. There are just some bad actors, but when you hear 16 are being investigated, that's concerning. Jennifer Maccarone is Liberal MNA for Westmount St. Louis and official opposition for public security, and she is on the line. Jennifer, thanks for coming on this afternoon. Look, I think we're all outraged, saddened. I mean, pick a word. What do you want to see happen here?
Well, I think first and foremost, before I even get to that, I want to salute the courage of the police officers who signaled that there was an issue and who denounced it. I can only imagine how challenging that was for them, and also highlight how solid Fady Daguerre has been since he has been made aware of this worrisome, unethical, unacceptable situation. One of the things that I think absolutely has to happen is, of course, there needs to be an investigation, but ultimately that investigation needs to be independent. I do not believe that it's going to be credible, at least to the population concerned, if the SPVM is investigating its own members. And so that's why we were recommending, whether it's the SQ or whether it's an independent organization or independent organizers that do the investigation, like a former judge, for example, that's where we need to go. Yeah. We need to have something that is independent, transparent, and credible.
I mentioned 2008. If we go back to Freddie Villanueva, this part of the city, for whatever reason, has been a hotspot before. Governments were aware of this, have pointed out. It seems not very much has changed here.
And, if that's the case, then it's unfortunate that we've only come to this point now where an investigation is happening. I guess better late than never, but the reality is that we're going to have to push through with what it is now. And if that means that the investigation dives back into time to find out how long it's been ongoing, so be it. We heard what Fady Daguerre said. There's potential criminal action. There is potential unethical action. And so I do think that they need to uncover all the elements of this. The only way for us to ensure that we're attacking it going forward is to understand what has been happening up until now.
All right. And we know that it has been a problem, as I said in the past. Jennifer, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. Alain Babineau is Director of Racial Profiling and Public Safety at the Red Coalition. We spoke only a few days ago, Alain, about Montreal police body cams, and I have a question on that for later. But give me your reaction to this, because I said this is nothing new. So to hear that this is yet again, or still, I should say, a problem, what was your reaction when you heard this?
Yeah, well, I wasn't surprised. I sort of got wind of this actually back in during Black History Month. Ironically. So this was not surprising. The question I have, and that Madame Maccarone just asked, really is how long have they known about this? There's three questions usually you ask in these type of internal investigation. How long have you known about this? What have you done about this? And what are you planning on doing about this? So the first thing is, how long has the director, or if not the director, the upper echelons have known about this? What kind of measures, mitigating measures, have they put in place to mitigate the risks to the population? because, these things have been going on for a long time, and they found out about this like 3-4 months ago. What kind of exposures has the community had to those officers? And then lastly, of course, we're talking about 2 officers that, their files, files have been, submitted to the DPCP. That's for the criminal investigation. But there's 14 other officers who must be investigated from a police ethics perspective. So, it's very serious.
Alain, as I said when I was talking to Jennifer Maccarone, this has been, I guess, a hot spot in the city now for many, many years. I'm going to guess if we go back, we mention always the name of, Freddie Villanueva, but we recognize that then it's happened on a couple of other occasions again. What is it about this part of the city? Is it lack of leadership from the police, from that commander? What do you think is going on here?
Let's be careful, Aaron, because I think the narrative that's being pushed out there is that it's that part of the city. It's Montreal now. It's I'm not going to use the term that some police officers that used to describe Montreal now, but it starts with an N as well. That it's been going on, I'm going to say, for 50 years. Okay, I will invite you after, when you get a minute this evening to go back and have a look at a National Film Board production that was done in early 2000 involving the late Edouard Anglade and other black SPVM officers. And I'm not going to tell you what's in there, but have a look at it and have a look at what's happening right now. And then you and I can have a further conversation as to whether anything has changed since the early 2000s.
So who do we put this on, though, Alain, if nothing has changed, and it seems very little has?
Well, there's a culture of denial within, I'm going to say within the larger population, but certainly within the SPVM that's been in existence for 50-some years, that, there's just a couple of, rotten apples, and if we get rid of it, it's been a narrative that's been going on forever. The black communities, and I use the term communities because the notion that this is only happening up in Montreal now is ludicrous. I've been involved in cases of racial profiling citywide since at least the last 10 years. And if you talk to Foniemi, he'll say that he's been involved for the last 40 years. So it's not a Montreal now problem. It's a island-wide problem. And a culture of denial that has developed over the years, which has made it very difficult for anyone wanting to come forward. And Daguerre the director of Daguerre is really the first chief of police that's put on his big boy pants and taking some very very strict measures.
And are you optimistic, given that he has done that, and given that he's someone who believes? I mean, we know this from his history, as I said earlier. Who believes in community policing. Does something change here?
No, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. There's a very powerful inner crust of folks that, again, still have this idea that to minimize everything. And it's hey, listen. A week ago, you and I were talking about a bylaw to charge people with insulting police officers. How what a difference a week makes, right? Yeah. So now are you gonna be adding a bylaw to it's so ludicrous. I don't want to go back in time, but it's gonna take a very no nonsense approach to all of this, from the selection process of individual, being screened for racist tendencies at every step of the way, from the CJAD all the way through police Nicolette, all the way through when they come on board. There's going to be a very careful selection of who to coach officers, because they're so important, because they will mold the officers as to how the type of behavior they're going to adopt. And then lastly, you're going to need a zero tolerance acting, measures, not just lip service of zero tolerance and all that, which means nothing, when it comes to it, but something similar to what
Chief,
Daguerre just did. And I'm going to tell you, from my perspective, I'm more upset about the managers and supervisors that allow this to continue. And I would fire them without any hesitation and let them fight it in front of through the fraternity, because those are the guys responsible to allow this kind of behavior to persist and continue. If you're on the job, if you got 2 years service on the job and you're doing some things that you shouldn't be doing, that's one thing. But there should be a next level should be there to put a stop to it. But if they don't, they ought to be fired. That's my opinion.
We'll leave it at that. Alain, always appreciate the time. Let's see what happens. Thanks so much.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. I'm coming to get you! One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all. Bryan Adams Radio. I'm coming back to you. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app. Everybody